What's up, Wizards fans? Welcome to another episode of Believe in Wizards. My name is Ben Wolf. This is my first time hosting for Believe. I'm a content creator for Matt and Believe in the Department of Hoops. It's a pleasure being with you guys, and I'm honored to be joined with Nic Thomas, who is the founder of Draftstack, which is a rapidly growing hub for basketball coverage from the high school to NBA level. Nic, thanks for joining.
Man, I'm super excited to be here, man. Wizards is one of my favorite young teams in the NBA. They're one of my favorite league pass teams over the past year, so I'm really excited to get in here and just sort of share some takes.
Yeah, now following the draft, it's that time of the year where summer league's starting up. It's going to start. Summer league starts Thursday, but for the Wizards, their first game will be on Friday, July 11th. They start playing against the Suns. Then game 2 will be Sunday, July 13th against the Nets. Game 3 will be July 15th against the 76ers. And then game 4 will be July 16th versus the Jazz. Each team is guaranteed 5 games, but that fifth game is determined once the first 4 games are concluded. And then the top 4 teams will play in a playoff, and I guess we'll see if the Wizards have a good chance. I like the young core. They got a lot of young guys. Opportunities for these guys to really prove themselves.
If you guys win, I want to see a banner on the back wall.
Yeah.
2025 Summer League champions.
Yeah. And then so today we're going to focus on the guys on the summer league roster, more like the undrafted free agents from this year and those G League guys from previous years. But before we start that, just run through the roster that the Wizards released the other day. So we got AJ Johnson, Bub Carrington, Trey Johnson, Leaky Black, Keshon George, Kadary Richmond, Alex Sarr, Will Riley, Jameer Watkins, Liam Robbins, Dillon Jones, Zeke Mayo, Akoldah Gak, Keshon Gilbert, and Jonathan Pierre. So one of the guys that I'm really looking forward to is Kadary Richmond. He's a 23-year-old guard at St. John's this year. This past season, he averaged 12.4 points, 6.4 rebounds, 5.3 assists, and 2 steals. Now, the 2 steals is really what jumps out at me. So what do you think about this pickup for the Wizards, Nic?
Man, I love it. Look, Kadary is the highest ranked player here out of on my 2025 big board. He came in at 60th, so he's the only player within the top 60 that got picked up here by the Wizards. He's a very capable scorer off the dribble, and he's able to get to the rim pretty consistently. He uses his positional size very well to sort of finish through contact in that area. He's a really good passer, particularly in transition and in the half court as well, because he excels really well as a pick and roll passer. He has primary ball handling capabilities and upside. A pretty nice, pretty shifty handle that allows him to create a lot of separation. But with that said, his decision making with the ball in his hands can be poor at times. He has good size, length, and athleticism, which I mentioned before, which allows him to make a positive impact on the defensive end. And he's also a good rebounder, both on the offensive glass and defensive glass. However, the main gripe, I guess, with Kadary Richmond is his shooting, right? That's kind of the main struggle. He's shown signs of improvement over his collegiate career, particularly at the free throw line, but it does remain his biggest concern, particularly with the consistency. There are plenty of positives in Richmond's game, but he needs to put them on display more consistently if he wants to get that NBA contract.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, especially the shooting. Like it's just such a shooting league now. I mean, you see all these teams, including like the Pacers. So every guy on that roster was able to shoot the ball. But I really think that his defensive capability and his strength can really help him gain that contract, especially just like throwing offenses off and then just being able to turn that defense into offense, pushing the ball for easy buckets. And then, so let's say he does make the NBA roster, he makes the Wizards. Like, what type of role do you see him playing on the Wizards?
I could definitely see him. I mean, at his ceiling, if say everything works out, which I assume it is, if he's getting the NBA roster spot or a 2A spot, he could definitely be someone that comes in and gives you 5 to 15 minutes a game of pretty good basketball. Now, as I said, there are some issues with his playmaking, so I'm not sure how much he can operate on the ball. I think he does need the ball in his hands though to be effective. So it's kind of a double-edged sword with him, and if he can work out the playmaking, he can definitely be someone who gets pretty substantial minutes in the NBA, considering he's an undrafted free agent. And especially, he's on the Wizards too, so it's going to be relatively easy to get minutes on the Wizards compared to other teams, but I think, he could be a solid contributor if everything works out, especially the playmaking. The playmaking is the main thing I'm looking for. The shooting thing is kind of a given, but if he can be a more consistent decision maker and a better decision maker and show that he can be trusted with the ball in his hands consistently, then I think, he can definitely be a contributor at the NBA level.
Yeah, and then just another thing that stood out to me is I was like, when I was doing some research on Kadary, he saw videos about Patino talking to him, just said he's a great personality, he's very accountable, and I think that'll definitely make great strengths, especially going to the next level. And then another player, second player, is Zeke Mayo out of Kansas. He's a 22-year-old guard, 6'4", 105. This guy, he could shoot the ball. He shot 42.2% from three this past season and 44.7% from the field. So he's an efficient shooter as well. And then he transferred to Kansas from South Dakota State, and he easily fit into the Big 12, which tough conference to play basketball in college. And he plays around good talent. So he's like a good complementary piece, which, with the Wizards, bunch of young guys trying to prove themselves, it's not really like that at the moment. But what do you think about Zeke?
Yeah, as you said, he's a super strong shooter, shot 42% from three last season and made 83% of his free throws. He's a very good rebounder for his size as well, which is something I think has kind of gone a bit under the radar. And he has flashed high-level playmaking abilities in some games and in some circumstances, with a near 20% assists rate over the past two seasons between South Dakota State and Kansas. With that said, though, he can be prone to bad reads and turnovers, which is cause for concerns. But he can play on or off the ball and is effective in ball screen situations, which kind of negates the negatives of his sort of bad read and turnover tendencies, right? He's very capable of making positive defensive plays, but is overall a net negative on that end of the floor due to his size. And as you said, every piece of intel that I've gotten on this dude is that he has an amazing work ethic and great character. So, if there's someone that's going to work out and carve out a role in the NBA, I wouldn't be shocked if it was Zeke.
Yeah, I definitely think he'd be a good piece. I think really if he makes the NBA roster, makes it for the go-go, I think he's going to shoot his way onto the roster. So the guy that I did a lot of research on, made a video for the Department of Hoops, is Jonathan Pierre out of Belmont. I think this guy he's just an all-around player. He's smart with the ball. He can shoot the three, long, lanky guy. I think he's got like a 7-foot wingspan. He's 22 years old, 6'9", 210-pound forward out of Belmont. This past season, he averaged 13.8 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. So where'd you have Pierre on your ranks, Nick?
Not particularly high. He was in my 150 to 130 range for most of the year. He's another example of a D2 success story, starting out at Nova Northeastern before transferring to Memphis and finally Belmont. As you said, he has good size and length, very smooth shooting stroke, and can shoot off the dribble as well as in catch-and-shoot situations. He's super flexible, and he moves extremely well for his size. And the main issue with Pierre, though, is he can get to the basket, but he's knocked off course very, very easily and has a very poor center of gravity. And that's kind of going to be a bit of an issue, considering a lot of his buckets come in that mid-range to the inside area. He's also a below-average athlete, too, so it's not like he's able to sort of just go through people or go over or around people.
Yeah, and then also he, obviously doesn't have much experience against top Division I players as well, playing at Belmont. And he really only had one successful year at the Division I level. He played for Memphis before transferring to Belmont, but he really didn't do much there. But I think, these guys, they get to the league, they start putting on size, and I think if he works like on controlling that center of gravity, he has tools there. So if he's grown, like you said, went from D2 to Division 1. So he's shown progression, he's grown, and I think he had like a big growth spurt once he got to college as well. So I think
Yes.
you've seen that steady growth, but making it to the NBA, as we know, it's really taking that next step, and we'll see if he's able to continue that growth. Maybe with the Wizards if he makes it, if not, somewhere else.
And that's definitely positive, man. Look, as someone in the scouting community, and I would consider myself a bit of a scout. He's improved year over year consistently, right? Like every single year you look at him, even in some cases game to game, and you'll be able to say, hey, he's improved at this. Hey, he's gotten a little bit better at this, even just a little bit at a time. And that's a key indicator for someone who's going to be able to continue to progress at the NBA level. Some people look at his age, he's 22, and put a bit of a false ceiling on him. But for these kind of guys Cedric Howard's a great example, right? Cedric Howard started off at a D3 JUCO school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was able to consistently improve. And people have put a bit of a false ceiling on him. And I think that he has legitimate all-star caliber player upside, right? Cedric Howard. And this is another example of that where, obviously Pierre doesn't have all-star upside, but people are putting a bit of a false ceiling on him because of his age. I don't think that there's really a ceiling on what he can do. And we don't really know what he can do yet because he's been able to improve consistently. What's saying that he can't continue to do that at the NBA level? Can't continue to add new strengths to his game. This could be a totally different player by year 4 or 4 years from now to where he is now.
Yeah, definitely 100%. Even if you look at, I'm a Knicks fan, I've grown up from New York, but obviously going to school in Maryland, learning a lot about the Wizards as well. Been paying a lot of attention with them. But like Deuce McBride, he was drafted. He wasn't an undrafted player, but he really didn't have much of a role. He was a good player, good athlete, but Tibbs, they would send him down to the G League, and he just kind of progressed over his few years, and now he's got solid bench player role. He's a bit still a little streaky, but when he's on, he's on. Especially you saw that in the playoffs for a few of those games, and he can really defend and shoot the ball at a high clip. So yeah, you really never know what happens once they make it to the next level. And then another guy at Iowa State is Keshon Gilbert. He is 22-year-old, 6'4" guard. Last season, he averaged 13.4 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He was the second leading scorer on Iowa State, and he led the team in assists and minutes. He was also, what I was reading, he was a big go-to guy late in the game, but end of the season kind of struggled with some injury. What do you think about Keshon?
Man, Keshon was one of my favorite guys in the nation to watch last year, right? He's that archetype of player I just love. He's a tenacious and very aggressive defender and makes plenty of plays on the defensive end, consistently averaging around 2 steals per game. He's relentless when attacking the basket and draws heaps of fouls. He is a solid shooter, but I wouldn't say he's respected, right? He's knocked down 33% of his attempts last year, but I wouldn't expect teams to be guarding him from out there. As I said, he isn't exactly respected. He has flashed some really solid playmaking abilities. However, I'm not sure if he's a good enough passer yet to be a primary ball handler, and he doesn't have the best assist-to-turnover ratio either. He is prone to making some bad reads and some poor decisions with the ball in his hands. It is also worth noting there are some injury concerns. A lingering groin injury that caused him to miss time over the final 2 months of the season is worth noting. That's still kind of a bit of a bother from everything I've heard and all the intel that I've got.
Yeah, and then he also won the Big 12 championship MVP in 2024. So, if anything, that shows he was their go-to late guy. He shows up in the bright moments when it matters most. So, hopefully this injury doesn't bother him, and I think he'll really take advantage of this summer league opportunity to potentially make the Wizards or the G League roster. So those were the undrafted free agents from this year. But another guy that people have been looking at is Leaky Black. What do you think about him?
I love Leaky, man. Shout out Eric Collins. But I also saw Leaky Black get pretty significant minutes as a Hornets fan myself last season. He's very strongly built and relatively athletic. He's like I would class him as like a quintessential glue guy, right? He makes winning hustle plays very consistently and is a very defensive-minded player. He has the size, quickness, and footwork to effectively defend multiple positions, and he does have some offensive questions, namely with his ability to create shots for himself and consistently knock down threes. But he has improved his shot consistently over the last few years between the Tar Heels and then the Hornets. But at his best, doesn't provide much more than a corner 3-point shooting floor spacer. He is a positive playmaker though, and he does make pretty good reads consistently. I wouldn't say he's a primary ball handler, but he could definitely be like a secondary or tertiary ball handler to just try and create shots for you.
And what do you think he needs to show, especially in the summer league, or if he starts the year in the G League, to finally make it back to the NBA level?
Look, man, if he can just show what he showed with the Hornets, I think he's gonna get another shot. I think that we saw it with who was the guy on the Wizards last year? Eugene Omoruyi. Man, I love Eugene Omoruyi. I'm not sure who's on the roster again this year, but your teams are always looking for these guys, these glue guys, these guys that make hustle plays and winning plays consistently, particularly these young teams that are trying to establish a culture. And Leaky Black can just go in there and show what he showed with the Hornets, which is, as I said, being a quintessential glue guy. I think he has a very, very good shot of making an NBA roster, but whether it's with the Wizards or another team sees him and picks him up.
Yeah, glue guys very important, especially like you said, trying to build that culture. You need that. He's been in the league for about 2-3 years now, so he's kind of got a veteran presence in a way. But those glue guys really help the team gel together. And if you got a team that's friends with each other, gelling together, that's how you win basketball games. Got to get a good culture going. Another guy is Dillon Jones. He's 23-year-old guard, 6'5", out of Weber State. He was the 26th overall pick by the Thunder last year. So NBA champion, first year in the league. That's not too shabby. But but Thunder roster is pretty stacked, especially their bench. Caruso, Wiggins, Terp, and Jalen Williams. So he really wasn't able to get a lot of developmental minutes on the Thunder. But I think now going to the Wizards, which is a young team, guys trying to prove themselves, I think that this is a great spot for him.
Yeah, man, for sure. Look, I think what the Wizards front office has been doing over the past couple of off seasons has been really, really promising. You guys have just, even in the last month or so, you guys have nabbed 2 really, really good prospects off teams just by being aware of the market and staying active, and gotten these guys very, very cheap, right? Obviously, Cam Whitmore is a big name, but Dillon Jones was very, very underrated as a pickup. He's a very versatile scorer and is able to get to his spots very consistently in the mid-range and at the rim. He's an excellent positional rebounder, and his basketball IQ is elite, right? He reads the game well and consistently makes the right decisions. His 3-point shot has been fairly inconsistent over the course of his career, both NBA and collegiate. However, he's improved free throw percentage, which is around 82% from memory, suggests there is room for improvement. His perimeter defense does need some refinement. He gets blown by quite often, but he projects as someone who can guard multiple positions due to his size, strength, and really elite reflexes, like some of the best reflexes I've ever evaluated at the collegiate level.
Yeah, and then another thing that really stands out to me is that he's already been through a championship run. He sat the bench. He didn't really play a lot. He scored 10 points in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals, but that was the game the Thunder got blown out. But another guy taking advantage of an opportunity, but he also was around a culture that won, that a winning culture, and I think that especially as a guy who doesn't get a lot of minutes in the NBA, but played a lot in the G League. If he was just like a sponge, kind of taking everything in, I think if he can bring some of that winning mentality to Washington, that can be a very, very good addition for them.
Yeah, man. Championship experience cannot be understated.
One more guy is Liam Robbins. He's a 7-foot center. He went to Vanderbilt. He's 25 years old, so on the older side. Um, he's kind of had a streaky history in the NBA. Well, he signed in the Pelicans in 2023, but he got hurt, was cut, and then in 2024 he played 13 games for the Bucks. He was on um, the mid-season tournament team. So he's got that recognition, but
Championship experience. You want to talk about championship
yeah,
experience?
yeah, there you go. He only played 7 games in the G League as well, but then he got hurt again, cut in February, but now he's picked up by the Wizards for the Summer League. And what I read is that he's going to have a significant role on this Summer League roster, especially that they're looking for a complementary piece to Sar. In college, Robbins, he was the 2023 first team All SEC. He was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, all defensive team. He averaged 3.2 blocks. So I think definitely like a vertical complementary piece to Sar would be really good if he pans out.
Yeah, man. Look, I love Liam Robbins. He's one of my favorite guys here. Probably my favorite guy here. He's a super versatile center that provides floor spacing capabilities as well. He shot 36% from 3 over his collegiate career and over 50% in the mid-range. He's able to get the job done inside as well. He led the nation in fouls drawn per 36, which is a really fun stat that I like throwing around. He's a strong rebounder on both the offensive and defensive glass. And as you said before, he's an elite shot blocker, right? He led the SEC in blocks per game and was second in the nation in block percentage, which led him to be, as you said, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He's another case of a player who just needs to put it all together a bit more consistently. But if I had to make a bet of who makes an NBA roster out of all the non-NBA guys here, Robbins is definitely my pick, without a second doubt.
And then the final guy is Akoldah Gak. He's a 23-year-old forward, 6'11". He's got a lot of pro Australian experience in the NBA or NBL with the Illawarra Hawks. What do you think about him?
Yeah, man, I got a chance to watch this guy live in person a few times, being from Australia myself and getting media access. He has a great positional size and length and great athleticism, and he operates at his best as a rim protector. And he's an overall rim deterrent, right? You look at these guys in the NBA that are considered the best defenders. They might not average an insane amount of blocks or the amount of blocks you think they should. Like you look at guys like Rudy Gobert, right? But their impact isn't just as a shot blocker; it's also being a deterrent around the rim. People don't want to drive on these guys. Akoldah Gak is one of those players, right? He's a positive rebounder, particularly on the offensive boards, and he's a super mobile and fluid athlete. However, he does lack offensive consistency, and he is still quite raw, which is a bit concerning given his age. But I will say he probably has the highest upside of all the non-NBA guys here on this roster.
So those are all the guys that we were planning on going through. But just to kind of wrap things up, so who would you say like is your guy that you expect to make the NBA roster? Be one or two players. Like who do you like the most?
I would say Leaky Black and Robbins. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think they both provide two things that are very in demand in the league right now. Like I look at a lot of the ways that I project players and prospects is how does this guy fit into the league 3-5 years from now, right? When they're coming up on that second contract after their rookie contract. Obviously, these guys are undrafted and these guys are free agents, so it doesn't quite make the same sense. But generally, that's how I kind of project guys. One of my main projections and sort of archetypes I think the league is going to fall in love with over the next few years is these bigs that can shoot the 3 and protect the rim. And Liam Robbins falls into that completely. He is like the perfect version of that, right? And the teams are definitely going to take a chance on him on a two-way contract. There's no way someone doesn't throw him a two-way contract. I would be shocked, especially given, as you said, the large role that he's about to have within this team. And then with Leaky, obviously, it's just that role of another glue guy. Teams love to take flyers on these guys. Maybe you end up with like a Lou Dort, someone that just you can buy low. These guys don't really need to have a crazy amount of skill, but can kind of just get minutes and get signed purely based on their effort and hustle. Right? There's no real, Leaky Black could never improve again a day in his life, and he'd probably still get multiple NBA contracts.
Yeah, I really like Robbins as well. I think he could be, if he performs, I think he can really be a shoe in there. I think he's got the tools, a lot of potential. So we'll see. We'll see this Friday what happens in the summer league. Very pumped to watch. I think the Wizards got a good roster. I really like Kadary Richmond as well. I just think like he's a tough player, quiet guy. He is kind of quiet guy, but he focuses on basketball, works hard, and I think just another like really strong defensive guy, like strong at the hoop. If he really, like we said, improves that decision making, I think he's got a good shot at least making the G League team and maybe swinging back and forth from the Wizards roster.
Yeah, man.
Well, that's it for this episode of Believe in Wizards. Nic, thank you so much for having me. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, no, for sure. I just started my YouTube channel, so for any NBA takes, if you want my opinion on what's happening what is happening around the league, you can find that at the link in the description. Also, of course, check out Draftstack. That's my brand. That's my company. We provide scouting and intel on all the top prospects. As Ben said, from high school through to college, we cover international prospects. We have people at these tournaments. We have exclusive interviews. And, for a team like the Wizards, who are going to be in the lottery for a little while longer, it's probably going to be good for you guys to get some early scouting in on these guys. So, yeah, definitely check that out. That'll be in the link in bio as well.
Yeah, you can follow Draftstack on X. Instagram is @Draftstack. YouTube is, again, Draftstack, and their website at draftstack.substack.com. And then you can follow me. My X is over there at BenWolf22. And then also my Instagram, BenWolfTV. All right. Thanks for hanging with us. See you guys.
Have a good night.